too long ago for the Innovation Forum of the US-India Strategic Commercial Dialogue. It's great to be back in this room. I want to thank, again, Vicky, and I thank Brookings, Dhruv Jaishankar, Mr. Mittal, thank you for being here, for your leadership on so many issues. Let me also just say today is Veterans Day in the United States. The embassy is actually closed today. We honor and salute all those veterans of the United States that have served and all of our partners that have served and sacrificed across the world. I was also honored to go to the U.S. Marine Ball last night. It was their 241st birthday of the U.S. Marine Corps, which actually was established before America even declared independence. So happy birthday, Marines. And again, to all those who have served, we honor you on Veterans Day. Look, I'm really honored to be here, excited to be here, and there's a lot to talk about. So let me get on with the remarks. On Wednesday morning here in Delhi, we witnessed the culmination of a nearly 2-year hard-fought presidential campaign. Many of you were at the reception that we hosted at the embassy. There were a lot of people watching anxiously as the results came in. Certainly no one can doubt the excitement of American democracy these days. And in their post-election speeches, both President-elect Trump and Secretary Clinton urged Americans to come together and put a fairly divisive campaign behind us. President Obama and President-elect Trump met for nearly 90 minutes at the White House yesterday to start the peaceful transition of power, which is a hallmark of our democratic system. I thought the president said some extremely apt words on Wednesday when he said, the day after the election, we have to remember that we're actually on one team. This is an intramural scrimmage. We're not Democrats first. We're not Republicans first. We are Americans first. And those are good words to remember. In addition to the presidential race, the American people also voted for their local, state, and congressional representatives. And I'd like to give special congratulations to the Indian Americans elected on Tuesday. California elected the first Indian American senator, Kamala Harris, while Washington State elected the first Indian American woman to the House of Representatives, Pramila Jayapal. 2 more new Indian Americans will join the re-elected Californian Congressman Ami Bera in the House. That is Ro Khanna from California and Raja Krishnamurthy from Illinois.
Yeah, very good. Excellent.
I will tell you, we have come a long way from when I was first working in the House of Representatives as an intern in the year 1987, when you could count on one hand the number of South Asians or Indian Americans working on Capitol Hill, and I'm glad to see those days are well behind us. I'm also reminded of all those who worked so hard to make moments like this past week possible. You know, as you walk through the Capitol, just off the Speaker's Gallery, there is a beautiful painting of Dalip Singh Sandh, the first ever Indian American elected to Congress in 1957, where he served for 6 years. And originally from Punjab, he immigrated to the U.S. via Ellis Island in the early 1920s. He would pursue his education, take up farming, and the rest, as they say, is history. Others of you here in this room have made important contributions too, that helped ensure these doors to American political institutions were opened. And so many of you have worked tirelessly on U.S.-India ties, Ambassador Sybil and Singh and so many others, and it's really wonderful to see the fruits of those labors paying off. Now, as events unfold over the next several weeks of the transition, a new cabinet and administration priorities will emerge. There is no question in my mind that further building and strengthening the U.S.-India relationship will be one of those top priorities. Let me explain to you why, and let me give you 4 reasons. First, A strong bipartisan consensus on the importance of U.S.-India exists, and that consensus has only grown and strengthened over the years. Anyone who saw the Prime Minister's speech before Congress this past summer realized that it was Republicans and Democrats enthusiastically embracing our enhanced ties, rising to their feet in applause time after time. As many of you know, one of the single largest caucuses in the House of Representatives and also in the Senate is the U.S.-India caucus. And in a time of deep political polarization in our country, enhancing the U.S.-India partnership is something that is refreshingly unifying across the political divide. And as you look at the gains over the years in the relationship, particularly over the past 20 years, those have occurred in Republican and Democratic administrations. President Clinton's visit here in many ways was a landmark moment. President Bush's embrace of the civil nuclear cooperation and defense framework deals deepened our strategic cooperation. And President Obama has, over the past 8 years, taken our ties to new heights with significant advances in defense, clean energy, health, science, and innovation, and I'm confident this trend line will continue. Second, we have greater convergence on the big issues of the day. Now, if we spent the bulk of our bilateral relations engaging in cordial but on separate political, economic, and strategic tracks over our history, those tracks are now converging. We've made it clear, perhaps in a way that it wasn't before, that we support India's rise as a global power, with a key role in international institutions, a seat on a reformed UN Security Council, within the major export control regimes, and with the military capabilities to project power and to be a provider of security across the Asia-Pacific. This view has freed us from thinking on a transactional basis. The U.S. view is now quite straightforward, and it was echoed by the Prime Minister in his address to the Congress when he said, quote, "A strong and prosperous India is in America's strategic interest." It's that simple. It's that important. And this philosophy has helped drive our cooperation upward and closer. Now, we can see the practical impact of this in our embrace of a joint strategic vision for cooperation across the Asia-Pacific, a landmark agreement our two leaders entered into in January of 2015, and one that stands for the peaceful resolution of disputes, the freedom of navigation, counter-piracy, counter-weapons of mass destruction, economic integration, and so much more. We see the impact in our counter-terror declarations and the unity of our condemnation of terrorism of all forms, including cross-border terror. We see our renewed convergence on issues related to Afghanistan, our trilateral cooperation with Japan, the increasing complexity, pace, and character of our military exercises, and we see it in a recent and historic designation of India as a major defense partner. Even on issues that had divided us in recent years, climate change, for example, have come into convergence. Who would have thought that the U.S. and India would lead the world to a global climate agreement in Paris? And again, just last month in Kigali, we sealed another agreement to scale back deadly HFC gases. This is the new normal: strategic, political, and economic convergence. Third, we have demonstrated such significant progress in key areas and demonstrated the impact to people in both of our countries. Now, it's an oft-quoted saying, but success begets success. And that's what we've witnessed. That's what we've witnessed. Let me give you some specifics. In a world of declining exports, our two-way trade is actually up. and up sharply over the past few years, now at nearly $110 billion, and the U.S. continues to be India's largest trading market. And India continues to have nearly a $30 billion trade surplus with the United States. The character of our trade and investment has also changed. The vision of India as simply an outsourcing destination is a somewhat outdated view. There are now over some 500 U.S. companies with offices and investments here in India. They are increasingly capturing market share they otherwise would not have had if they were not here. They are selling products not only in India but across Asia. They are becoming more competitive, and that's good for U.S. workers and investors and Indians too. We've seen that with the closing of billion-dollar deals in locomotives, in aerospace and defense, and soon to be civil nuclear, which when signed will be one of the largest civil nuclear deals ever concluded and will provide power to some 63 million people. Now, if the issuance of visas is any indication of the growing closeness of our countries, then one should be enthused with the results. Nearly 1.1 million visas were issued last year for Indian visitors to the United States. That's 3 times greater than it was just 10 years ago. And we will exceed that number again this year. Those are remarkable gains. The same could be true in the field of education. We had the highest number of students study in the United States last year from India, and I don't want to preempt the news of next Tuesday when we have a press conference, when we come out with our new education numbers, but let's just say we are going to announce another substantial jump in the already 135,000 students that study in America. In defense, we are proud to have become one of the leading providers of advanced military equipment, and remember, most of that has occurred in the past 5 years. 5 years. Our Defense Framework Agreement was only signed 10 years ago, so we have exceeded $15 billion in defense trade in a very short period of time. Even in agriculture, an area where we are supposed to be at loggerheads on a regular basis, we have hit $6 billion in agricultural trade over the past several years. Now, I give you some of these numbers and anecdotes to let you know that our relationship is not just based on rhetoric, but results. We are delivering for our people, and in this era of doubts about the benefits of globalization, this is a shining example of success that stands out in the crowd. Now, obviously, we could do even better, and we have set lofty goals. And obviously, again, we are not synchronized 100% on our issues. No 2 countries ever will be. But as the Prime Minister has said this past summer, he views the U.S. as an indispensable partner in almost every sector. And that is reassuring, it is confidence building, and I believe it is irreversible. Fourth and finally, our people-to-people ties and our shared values will continue to pull our 2 countries together. With some 3.5 million Indian Americans and even more from the subcontinent, the natural gravitational pull between our 2 nations will always be there, and it's only getting stronger. And as the former ambassadors that are gathered here know all too well, the South Asians and Indian Americans in the United States are doing amazing things. Obviously in Silicon Valley, obviously in the fields of advanced research and medicine, but as we saw this week, they are increasingly making their mark in the fields of public policy, law, and social justice. And increasingly, many are coming back here to give back to the land of their roots, either on short-term assignments or to move back permanently. When I've traveled across India, and I've now covered 24 states, hope to get to all of them, I get to meet this vast network of people who have ties to the U.S. A cousin, a sister, a brother, a friend, an uncle, or an aunt. They are the glue that binds us together. Not only are they the glue, but of course, it is the values which we hold dear that hold us together. We are both constitutional democracies, inclusive societies, protective of minority rights, protective of assembly, speech, and religion. We believe in the rule of law. We oversee our militaries with civilians. We resolve disputes peacefully. Not every country in the world has chosen the systems that we have. And in today's world, where the post-World War II order and its institutions are increasingly under assault, the U.S. and India are such natural partners, or natural allies, as the Prime Minister likes to say, to reinforce and bolster the norms, rules, and bodies that we have come to rely on and to keep our world peaceful and prosperous. That is the vision that Prime Minister Modi and President Obama have set forth, that if the U.S. and India are the closest of partners, then the world will be a safer place. It's actually quite simple. So as you can see, I'm quite bullish about our future and confident our strong relationship will continue into the next administration. As I look back on the past 2 years, and I use 2 years not only because that measures my time in India, but it was also just over 2 years ago that Prime Minister Modi went to Washington for his first meeting with President Obama. It's been one of the best 2 years in our relationship. I'm so grateful to the embassy team and our colleagues and across the Indian government who have worked so hard over many, many years to get to this point. I wish you all a very successful event today and assure you that we are committed to making this relationship even stronger in the years ahead. Thank you very much.